Blood on the sand, blood in the swamp, blood in the Badlands. We're back on Warhammer 3 in preparation for Skulls for the Skull Throne, and I am cautiously optimistic it just might be the best one ever. Tune in on Thursday, should be a really good time. There will be lots to talk about in the coming days and weeks. Before we jump into discussions about Dawn of War 4 and all the other content that may or may not be coming, there is a battle before us. A righteous test of might and metal. That's a pun, get it? It's like metal resilience and metal chaos dwarfs. Played a bunch of games with the old homie Zach B. Sane, and I actually had fun, which was cool. We got a Kadai build to take on the Bretonnians, which may sound a little counterintuitive. Expectation was a lot of peasants here, maybe some foot squires, and their blazing body and bonus versus infantry can rip a fiery hole right through foot troop builds. You may notice we are accidentally on large unit size in this one, not the default game 3 value of Ultra, so unit count and a few stats will be slightly different than what you might be used to, potentially, but fear not, fixed it for the 5 or 6 battles we played after this one, but this was still good, so I didn't want to leave it behind. Sorcerer Prophet of the Lore of Death will be riding a Bale Taurus, Chalice of Blood and Darkness, letting everyone know exactly how edgy he is. Will heal anytime an enemy caster uses magic nearby. Purple Sun Azirius, Spirit Leech, and on the flanks, 2 Bull Centaur Renders with great weapons, a necessity versus cavalry factions like Bretonnia, and a horde of Hobgoblins and Slaves. 0, and I do repeat, 0 elite Chaos Dwarf infantry in this army. Across the Blood Swamps comes the Knights of the Lady, King Lewin Leoncoeur and Baykeys at the helm, just a paragon of knightly virtue and valor, wielding the Sword of Couronne. 5 mid-tier cav, including Knights of the Realm and Questing Knights. Indeed, the build roulette has worked out reasonably well here if you're the Chaos Dwarfs. A lot of peasants and foot squires, although interestingly, no peasant bowmen. So, a pure rush army for Bretonnia and for the Chaos Dwarfs, and the defenders of the Fleur de Lis. I've been told many times over the years the Lee is not silent, but that real G's do in fact move in silence like lasagna. Now King Lewin on his majestic hippogriff, getting very spicy in these opening stages, emboldened by the fact that there are no range units to ward him off, so Sorcerer Prophet will have to land near the Kadai Fireborn, does not want to take a 1v1 against a regenerating duelist. But this is insanely risky. If you're the king of Bretonnia, he could very easily get pinned down here, and if the Bull Centaur Renders came over and completely surrounded him, he might have just died there. So, very risky, but manages to pull out no problem at all, and that's what she said. And the two armies are maneuvering within spitting distance. Now, Bretonnia has a clear-cut cav advantage here, so Chaos Dwarfs will want to play defensively with the Bull Centaurs and peel them back towards the center of the box, not over-pursue. Great weapons would beat any Brett cav on this particular battlefield in a 1v1, but there's way more knights than Bull Centaurs. It's 5 cav to 2, and they tend to melt when they get debuffed or rear charge when we're talking about Bull Centaurs. So the trees are obscuring that sneaky knight formation on the Bretonnian right flank as well. Defenders of the Fleur de Lis are going right in, as is King Lewin Leoncoeur, getting rid of some of these chaff up front. Hobgoblins and Slaves taking the brunt of these charges, while the Kadai Fireborn charge right up the center and start gutting the middle of that Bretonnian battle line. And that's going to be a big problem for Bretonnia here. They don't have any cavalry in reserve. They're looking to flank with all of them. It means there's nothing in their rear that can kind of cycle charge and help out in the center. And it also means if the Knights of the Realm can't find purchase in the DAAI back line, and quickly at that, then these foot squires will have essentially been thrown to the wolves. They'll fall to pieces like a jigsaw in the box. Now, it looks like some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders are chasing after the Knights. They want to tie them down with the help of the chaff and then engage with the Bull Centaurs, but they really don't want to over-pursue. They should come back to the Chaos Dwarf back line now. They're already too far out of position, I think, especially with that other cav wing coming in from the other side. Kadai Fireborn are having a wonderful time in the center right now, and the trees have completely obscured these two cav units. In fact, did not see this ambush at all. They were hidden for most of that time. They became visible when they crossed the Blood Swamp. A couple of those little creeks or rivulets, whatever you want to call them. Big breath attack coming down the center, but that's just on peasant mob, so not a big deal. But yeah, here they come out of the trees into the rear of the Bull Centaurs. Not a super clean charge. Hobgoblins and Slaves will help kind of cushion that blow a little bit, and the Bretonnians are getting blobbed up there, but still a good engagement for them. The fact that they got a charge off at all without being seen into the flank and rear, pretty big deal. And now we see the Dark Forge of the DAAI unleashing its potent sorceries, demon metal and tortured souls, bound within constructs of hate, branded by fire, and wielding massive axes, vomiting magma, It's hellish, it's terrifying, it's Warhammer, baby. Foot Squires never had a chance, just ripped apart by this monstrous infantry, and a really good engage for the DAAI Fireborn, who will look for other targets once the Foot Squires have been cut down to size, and it won't be long now. Bale Taurus moving over to the left flank as King Lewin Leoncoeur comes in to the Bretonnian right. And that is a purple Son of Xerius. The Sword of Corone comes down and debuffs the Bull Centaurs. You know what's worse than a debuff? Getting exploded by a black hole to the warp. Shaiish feasting this day. Questing Knights and Knights of the Realm just absolutely punished by that big time vortex. Not going to lose a ton of models. You typically need to overcast if you want that one-shot potential, but will drop them each below half, which should make that much more palatable for the remaining chaff. And Bull Centaur. Still, Bretonnia has the advantage on that side, particularly with the debuff from Sword of Corone still active. This Central Island right now, man, it's a charnel house. Blood-soaked and brutalized. The Fireborn have ripped out the Bretonnian center and cauterized it. But the Knights are still a major threat, and DAAI are not good at dealing with them in any way, shape, or form. They rely heavily on that 20 bonus versus infantry to bolster their melee attack value. So when they're fighting large stuff, yeah, they have okay weapon damage, but they're typically not going to be hitting all that effectively. So it remains to be seen how they transition into the late game here. They still have some more infantry to kill. Not a whole lot left of that on the Bretonnian side, though. Frankly, the Hobgoblins aren't faring much better either. Bretonnia put a lot more emphasis on their regular mainline foot troops, which played directly into the hands of these magma monsters. But as usual, the Knights of the Lady shall have to carry the day and take all the glory. Can't rely on those poopy peasants, the poxy peasants, the plebs, the peons. They did their duty. They forced the Fireborn into their preset kill limit, and now the Zap Brannigan School of Tactics and Military Strategy can come into play. Healthy Lewin and healthy Knights, Balance Bar doesn't like them, but they're definitely not out of this one, especially if Lewin's still full HP, and they got their caster too, so big Chain Lightning, some Wind Blast could definitely get them back into this one. Big charge into the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, who are going to tank that and allow the Bull Centaurs to engage afterwards. Bale Taurus should be actually rear charging those Cavalry, not doing so at the moment. A little bit of a micro mistake there, and it seems like the Knights are going to be able to disengage because of it. But they are keeping high and tight around the monstrous infantry. If they have some infantry support from the slaves or from the hobgoblins, then dealing with the Knights in melee will be certainly more palatable than usual. If the Magma Fireborn get charged directly, that's when they'll really get taken to Pound Town. So we'll see how they engage here. Looks like both sides are kind of... This is actually one of my favorite things in Total War battles in general, is when you kind of get that really heavy, really violent first round clash, and then both armies reset and go in for round two. And it looks like both are just kind of repositioning at the moment and getting ready for a second bout. King Lewin coming after the Bale Taurus. Sorcerer Prophet again will have to land. Realized that he was on skirmish mode. I'd actually totally forgotten that the Bale Taurus and the Sorcerer Prophet with the flare gun start out with skirmish mode enabled, and I was like, why is he running away? I don't want him to run away. Land, land, land. Yeah, just had to turn skirmish mode off. He's back on the ground now, supported by the Bull Centaur, so King Lewin will have to retreat. And yeah, you definitely want to keep it high and tight here with the Chaos Dwarfs. Their formation, keep them around the infantry, make sure that your monstrous stuff does not get clean charges in, or rather doesn't get cleanly charged by the Bretonnian Knights. Chain Lightning going to whiff everything. It was put right in the center of their formation, but managed to dodge out of the way. And King Lewin's doing a really smart thing here about terror routing all these chaff units, getting them off the field, and trying to expose that monstrous center so the Questing Knights and Knights of the Realm can get some good charges in. But there's nothing for it. They gotta go. Spirit Leech will start draining life from these cavalry, and oh my god, the Bale Taurus is just dry humping the air in the background. Avert your gaze, children. When a man loves a woman. Spirit Leech hitting some Questing Knights, and the DAAI Fireborn are in there now with their dual axes. This should be a really interesting engagement because Bretonnia does have that cavalry, 2 units in fact coming in from the rear. So they're going to get a nice hammer and anvil and sandwich off. But that Bale Taurus Sorcerer Prophet still has magic to cast. He's full HP. Every time the Enchantress is casting her spells nearby, he's healing off that. That's a really big deal. That's going to keep him nice and survivable in the melee grind. Sword of Corone active for the second time. Flare gun popping off, and a big breath attack down into the Knights. Really good engagement for Bretonnia, but a nice follow-up from the Chaos Dwarfs here. Took a big chunk out of that knightly unit in the rear, and now the Bull Centaurs are feasting. And this is going to start getting ugly unless King Lewin can strike the head off the snake, and I don't think he has the ability to take on the Bale Taurus and kill him that quickly. He would win in a 1v1 given enough time, but there's so much cushion for the push in there. You got the DAAI Fireborn around, you still got some Bull Centaurs, great weapon Bull Centaurs. Yeah, it's a lot for Bretonnia to deal with here, and as the Sorcerer Prophet gives chase and fires in with his flare gun, it's looking like it's getting real nasty for the Knights of Bretonnia, and Chaos Dwarf should be able to pull this one out as they take a final duel with Bakis and the King of Le Breton. So from a macro perspective in this battle, I feel like what Bretonnia should have done, and again, this is assuming that no real big changes are made to either one of the builds, I think you want to have your Questing Knights deployed behind your main infantry and then charge in anytime the monstrous infantry come up the center. Questing Knights are going to hard counter the DAAI Fireborn. It makes sense why you'd want to flank with them. You might need them, in fact, to deal with the Bull Centaurs, but I think you want to deal with the Bull Centaurs after you have dealt with the monstrous infantry in these DAAI Fireborn. And so not putting the Questing Knights in such an aggressive position, instead using them more defensively, would have been really beneficial. If every time the Fireborn charge into a Foot Squire, you are counter-charging with Questing Knights, and he did have 2 Questing Knights there, it probably would have helped counter what the monstrous infantry were able to do. And I mean, they shredded this game. Like, they absolutely destroyed the center of that Bretonian formation and essentially made it so that there was no more infantry to hammer anvil off of for the Knights, right? Knights did win out on the flank, and they did get some good charges off. They did get some good hammer anvils off, but they didn't have any more infantry support. It was interesting, this build here. I wouldn't call it like a hyper-competitive one. Obviously, I mean, we're playing land battle for fun regardless, but I kind of liked having the Fireborn there, honestly. Like, obviously, they did really well this game, so it's no surprise, but I feel like against Bretonnia, they could be kind of like a sneaky pick, because people like to bring a lot of peasants with Bretonnia, right? And maybe they're not going to spam a lot of Foot Squires. Maybe they're just going to have regular peasants and regular men-at-arms, but being able to just scythe through the middle and then immediately dive into the back and kill off peasant archers with your monstrous infantry, that's pretty damn good. That was pretty useful. I think we saw it there. Hope y'all enjoyed. See you in the next one.